So, for the second video in a row, this isn't exactly what I was planning on releasing today. I got something a little bit longer that's in the chamber, I guess it's almost done, but something interesting happened yesterday and I wanted to talk about it real quick. Xbox had its first ever developer direct, following in suit with Sony's State of Plays and Nintendo Directs, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't love it. Forza looks like Forza, surprise, but it had no date, so it felt like a bit of a wash. Redfall, I just can't seem to get behind no matter how much I want to and how much I like the devs. Minecraft Legends looks cool, but it's not really for me. And Elder Scrolls Online, same thing. It just wasn't a conference made for a player like me, I guess. Whatever, we move on, not a big deal. But there was one more game at that showcase that caused a bit of buzz on social media, Hi-Fi Rush. It was an animated rhythm beat-em-up from Tango Gameworks, who developed The Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo, making this a bit of a sharp turn from their normal horror stuff, but it caught a lot of people's attention. It looked like a big passion project from Tango, and it was also a bit reminiscent of Sunset Overdrive, another Xbox exclusive that's almost 10 years old now. Now, I was honest earlier, and I'm gonna be super honest now. I wasn't really into this game either when I first saw it, which is a bit strange. Like, an animated rhythm action game sounds right up my alley. You'd think I'd be all over this, but I was definitely raising an eyebrow throughout the presentation. I felt like the combat might get a bit repetitive quickly, there was an awkward sluggishness to the movement, including the janky little run cycle, and the dialogue sounded like it came out of a random cliche generator. The trailer unironically started like this.
Yep, that's me. And you're probably wondering how I ended up here.
So I said, alright, not really my kind of game, not really my kind of showcase, Xbox garbage, PlayStation sweep, Xbox mad, the end, except at the end of the trailer, Tango drops the bombshell that this game is playable right now. Now I'm thinking, alright, I wasn't really that excited for this, but I can play it right this second at no additional cost, which is pretty wild considering the context. This is a legit AAA studio shadow dropping a game directly onto Game Pass. Even if it's not a $100 million blockbuster, that's a pro gamer move right there. You have the service? Here you go, a new game from an established studio on a random Wednesday afternoon in January that you didn't even know existed until 5 minutes ago. Enjoy. People started going crazy. I saw tweets about how great this trailer was, how Xbox was really shadow dropping the game of the year 3 weeks in, and I played it and I thought it was pretty good. I'm not gonna act like this changed my life or anything, but I've honestly been enjoying it a lot more than I expected. I still think the dialogue is pretty corny, and I actually have a couple of gripes with the sound design that I'll talk about more when I ultimately review it in my monthly wrap-up video, but it makes up for it with an art style that pops way harder outside of a compressed YouTube stream with bad internet. The rhythm elements feel good, it's got a nice pace to it, and even the weird running eventually made sense to me because I realized that your character is just stepping to the beat. It still looks a bit weird, it still feels a bit weird, but at least I get what they're going for. Now, personally for me, if this year ends up being half as good as it's set up to be, this probably won't make my top 10 game of the year list, but at the end of the day, it was an enjoyable, unique experience that came out of nowhere and is honestly clowning on Tango's last game that had a much longer development cycle and came out less than a year ago. What I find the most exciting about this game, though, is that it's sort of confirming a strategy for Xbox that I think is genius. This may be one of the most high-profile shadow drops we've ever seen, but it's not actually the first time Microsoft has done something similar to this. On 2 separate occasions, both times with Obsidian, they've announced smaller scale games from AAA studios that are set to release almost immediately in Pentiment and Grounded. We know Obsidian's been working on Avowed and Outer Worlds 2 during these release cycles, just like we can probably guess that Tango has a larger game in the works than Hi-Fi Rush, but between these big releases, they've been encouraged to put out smaller titles that effectively serve as Game Pass boosters. In my eyes, there's only upsides to this approach. These are games that don't seem to be taking much manpower away from the big releases. Pentiment was made by like 11 people, so the bigger projects can still move forward as expected. It gives studios more freedom to be creative and weird, especially because these games exist to add value to Game Pass, not necessarily be system sellers or Microsoft's big earners of the year. And if it's properly managed, it allows for slow months on Game Pass to basically just become a thing of the past. There are dozens of new AAA studios under Xbox now, to the point that if in between their big releases, each one was able to put out a bite-sized project from a smaller team, like Hi-Fi, like Pentiment, like Grounded, every year and a half or so, you can basically slot one in for every month of the year. I honestly don't think that level of production is completely out of the question, and it almost feels like Xbox has been dropping hints about how that's what they've wanted to do this whole time anyways. franchise. If we look around at the examples we have right now, Grounded and Pentiment have kept Obsidian relevant as we await their big drops. Without them, we'd be waiting 5+ years between Obsidian projects. Like I mentioned, Hi-Fi Rush is not even a year removed from Tango's last game, despite there being a 5-year gap between that last game and the one before it, and I think Bleeding Edge probably fell under this tactic too. Sure, that one kinda sucked, but I wouldn't mind seeing Ninja Theory try out an out-of-left-field idea again between Hellblade games or any other major releases. I look over at what Sony's doing, right, and I do like it. The big studios are making big games, they're kind of branching off into multiplayer stuff or making smaller entries in their bigger franchises. It's a solid approach. They've got a lot of third-party deals with high-quality indie studios to fill out that creative, smaller game space, and they've even flirted with the same quick turnaround on announcement and drop it for free on your subscription service idea. Rollerdrome came out a couple of months after its first trailer, free on PlayStation Plus, and the same sort of thing happened with Destruction All-Stars and Oddworld Soulstorm. These are good moves, and I've been really happy with what's been brewing over on that side, I guess, but I've been hoping for something similar to what Xbox is planning here on Sony's end for such a long time. How cool would it be for any of the Mount Rushmore Sony studios to drop a 5-hour-long Spyro or Sly or Jak and Daxter game out of nowhere? Keep working on your God of Wars and Last of Us's and Ghost of Tsushima's, but just drop something small in between from a small mini studio inside of the bigger one. Bungie was acquired recently, and I'm honestly praying they just toss out a new small project every year or so. I don't need another Destiny from them, they already have their huge long-term service set in stone. Come in, help the multiplayer end of things, drop a few smaller scale titles every once in a while. That is exactly what I want from that studio. There is so much talent and creativity in these dev teams, but to meet that AAA quality and the demands of longer games and to polish all the details, you end up dumping 5 or more years into each title nowadays. The Uncharted games used to be 9 to 12 hours long, came out every 2 years, and led the industry from a technical standpoint, and everybody loved them. Now if Naughty Dog announced that their next game was 10 hours long, they'd be ripped to shreds for the price point and everything, and it would still take twice as long to get out the door. I want to see these devs run with crazy ideas and show off what they can do with a bit more freedom, and not just from Sony, from all AAA teams. In all fairness though, this type of model does seem to be much more achievable if those smaller games function as an incentive for a subscription service and not as a product to be sold separately. I kinda don't know if I would pick up Hi-Fi Rush if it wasn't on Game Pass, for example, so until Sony can figure out its unnecessarily confusing subscription model, who knows if they're likely to follow suit. The studio right now that I'd probably be most excited to see something like this from is id Software. I really hope we can see what a passion project from them looks like under Xbox, because they've made some of the best designed games ever in my opinion with the new Doom duology. Arcane could also probably make something pretty nutty. I know former members of that studio worked on Weird West after they left, but maybe now the team can make projects like that in-house. Machine Games also, basically all the Bethesda nerds. I want to see what they come up with. I still have my problems with the current state of Xbox. I'm still really hesitant to be excited about Redfall and Starfield, and if those suck, they're in big trouble. But I think allowing their teams to move out of the standard AAA dev cycle is pretty damn cool. Anyways, I just wanted to make a quick video on this because I feel like I'm always mean to Xbox, so I thought it'd be nice for once. The longer video that I'm working on is probably going to be out in the next couple of days, so keep your eye out for that. Subscribe if you're new, join the Discord, it's in the description, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.